When it comes to the health of your performance horses, Vetoquinol has everything you need. Tonight, we look at their special line of equine products that provide muscle and joint health, pain management, and help to improve the physical activity of your equine athletes. Good evening and welcome to Rural America Live. I'm Marlon Bowling. Zylkene Equine and EQUISTRO are products that have been trusted for years and are used by the top riders all around the world. And tonight, we're joined by the country manager for Vetoquinol. It's Eric Alsup. He joins us tonight. Also, we have barrel racer and owner of Sonnier Performance Horses, Tiffani Sonnier, and mounted shooter and owner of Double E Performance Horses, Elizabeth Clavette. Well, thank you all for joining us tonight. Appreciate that very much. Welcome to the show.
Glad to be here. Great to be back.
Eric, if you don't mind, I'll start with you.
Good.
Tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got involved eventually with Vetoquinol.
Yeah, I grew up in rural northwest Kansas. Grew up rural life, livestock, mostly horses. Got involved in FFA and fortunately met Tina, who kind of liked the same kind of lifestyle. So as we raised our kids after I'd gotten through veterinary school, when started raising our kids, we raised them the same way. I was in equine practice for several years, and even at that time, we made sure our kids had the exposure to agriculture, to animals of all types, FFA, 4-H. We showed quarter horses for several years, just been immersed in it all the time. So the opportunity to take that and then roll it into a career with Vetoquinol has just been a wonderful thing for me, a natural merger.
So from Northwest Kansas, I understand you went through Kansas State, is that right?
Yeah, did my undergraduate and veterinary degree at Kansas State.
All right, excellent. Well, glad to have you with us.
Thanks.
And I'm sure you'll have plenty to say about Vetoquinol.
I always do.
All right, I'm going to shift attention over to this side. And Tiffany, tell us about your background.
I grew up in Corpus Christi, Texas, in the city downtown. Decided I want a horse. It goes from there. Got married and moved into rodeo area, a little more so. Mm-hmm. Have always run barrels. Started in 4-H. Went to the Southern Regional level in 4-H and was actually one of the first speed event horses that had ever won the high point at the regional level in 4-H.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And started rodeoing, got married a rodeo person that roped calves and team ropes. Have a son. He was a baseball player, and now he decides he likes to rope.
Well, there you go.
So we kind of rodeo as a family. Now it's a little more oriented towards him. Yeah. And I like to help a lot of the kids with their horses, keep a lot of youth rodeo horses tuned up for kids, and enjoy it.
So you have obviously a connection through your professional experience with Vetoquinol then.
I do, yes.
And that's why you're here, to talk about it.
I am, and I believe in it 100%.
That's awesome. All right, well, thanks for coming in. Appreciate it.
I appreciate y'all having us.
Glad to have you guys come in. Elizabeth, tell us about you.
I was born in Colorado, and I was born into a horse family. My mom grew up in New York and did 3-day eventing. So I was raised doing pony club and 3-day eventing.
There's a neat picture of you there.
That's me when I was
you?
3. That's Patchy Poo.
Really?
My little pony.
You've grown a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. I still have that Western saddle, actually.
Wow, that's quite a picture.
I did everything from pony club to 3-day eventing, and then I decided to get into more of the Western. I did some rodeo. There's my brother, my niece, and my parents.
Nice.
They've been very supportive, and I've roped a little, and now I do the cowboy mounted shooting, and I love it. So
explain what that is, in case somebody's not familiar with that.
We run almost 80 different patterns. They choose them at the shoot, and you shoot 2 single action 45, so you have to pull your hammer back every time. You want to be within 10 to 12 feet of your target, which is a balloon. And it's based off of speed and accuracy.
We're looking, I assume that was a picture of you in an event.
That's one of my home-raised horses right there. We call her Hollywood. She's amazing.
So this is all going to dovetail with what we're going to be talking about. You know, you're actually doing the shooting in these photos here. It's really close to the horse's ears, and I have a feeling this may have something to do with all that, to keep them from going crazy because that gun is so close to them.
Yes.
And I'm very curious to learn about that. So thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Good to have you with us. All right, Eric, I'm going to start with you.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about the background with the Vetoquinol, if you will.
Well, Vetoquinol is actually, of all the animal health companies, no company has been operating under the same name longer than Vetoquinol. Started in France. It was actually started by the grandfather of our current CEO. It's family owned, started by the grandfather of our current CEO. He was a pharmacist, and he just started making some products for his dad, who was a veterinarian. And a few other veterinarians in that area started wanting the products too. And then throughout France, they wanted them. So in 1933, they set it up as a company and have started producing locally, spread out through Europe, eventually came to North America. Now we're in more than 20 countries, all of the major countries throughout the world. Over 2,000 employees, 9 production sites. We're 8th largest animal health company in the world. But among the companies that are dedicated purely to animal health, we're in the top 3. So it's really been a fun company to be part of. The family ownership, the real feel of it, the real feel of connection with the customer and with the animals. You'll see that everywhere. In our office in Fort Worth, so in the U.S., we're based in Fort Worth. Anytime you come in there, you'll see lots of people's pets, where we stay very connected to not only the people who own the animals, but the animals themselves in our daily life.
Now, you actually oversee the entire U.S. operations,
Right,
is that right?
yeah.
All right. How long have you been doing that now?
I've been there since January of 13, so about 6.5 years. I have to say it's gone by so quickly, I have to do the math real fast when I ask the question, because it's just been a really fun thing to do.
Wow, time flies. My
Yeah,
goodness.
it's fun because, like our guests, the people you deal with in animal health tend to be really wonderful people too. It's a great industry, a great company, and a great industry. I couldn't ask for more.
Okay, you have a wide variety of products through Vetoquinol. You have a line that is called EQUISTRO.
Right.
Explain what's involved in that lineup, can you?
EQUISTRO is a fairly new line in the last couple of years in the United States, but EQUISTRO has been around in Europe for going on 30 years. Been used by most of the major high-performance horse riders, Olympic level, and others throughout Europe, and we're just getting it started in the U.S. So the EQUISTRO line was meant to be a line to support horses. It has more to do with well-being than an actual sick animal. It's really to help owners keep their horses in top performance level.
And this has been established in Europe for quite a while, is that right?
Quite a long time in Europe, about 30 years, and widely used. And now, because of the globalization of horse competition, there's a lot of demand coming for it in the U.S. So we brought it out and then launched the EQUISTRO line in the U.S. now too. Well,
we're really glad you made it in, and it's always a pleasure to have you guys come in and talk with our audience about these equine products. From what I understand, you have a special offer, is that right, for tonight?
Yes, actually with our show tonight, we do have an offer that I just tell the audience that if you just go to farmvet.com, spelled just like it sounds, farmvet.com, and just in the search box put in Zylkene or EQUISTRO, and you'll find the products and the special offers we have for people watching the show.
Well, very good. Well, and we'll get into more details, I'm sure, in just a little bit. Sure. And there is a special code that they can use tonight?
Yeah, there is, but they'll have to get it off the screen because I don't know it.
All right. It's called Summer Savings, and we're going to be passing that along. Use that when you contact the company. Summer Savings for the discounts. All right, Elizabeth, you have been using EQUISTRO products for a while?
I have.
What's your experience with them? Why do you use it?
For overall health with my horses, it's been amazing. I love to use the MyoPower on young horses when they come in for training. It seems to help keep overall health. It helps build muscle. It helps keep them strong. You can see a pretty good result within a month, sometimes sooner. We've had it happen within a couple of weeks, and it helps them stay fitter, stronger, happier.
Okay, and you've been using that for a while now.
I have.
So far, and I assume you probably have had some word-of-mouth recommendations for other people that maybe have tried it?
Yes.
What do you hear back?
They love it. Everybody that has tried one of the products that I've recommended, they they continue using it. They've got really good feedback on the different products, whether it's the Flexidin for the joints or the MyoPower or Zylkene.
All right.
Or all the others that we've used.
Any certain ages of horses that you use the products on from the EQUISTRO lineup or not?
Everything from 2-year-olds to 20-year-olds.
Is that right? All right. Tiffany, how about you? What's your experience with the EQUISTRO line?
I've really seen results quickly, and I have several products that I've liked the most. I kind of try them one at a time so I can see what they do for the individual animal that I'm using it on. I love the Flexidin, the Secreta Pro. I think the whole line is great. Like I said, I like seeing results, and you see results with these products pretty quickly.
That's a pretty awesome action photo of you on the screen right now for our viewers at home. Eric, if you would, talk about the Flexidin product that has UC2 technology in it. Explain that, can you?
It's a very special product. I can tell you through experience with several of my own animals, horses, and we also have the product for dogs as they age need it too. Let me back up a little bit and just talk a little bit about arthritis, if I might.
Okay.
As with many diseases that happen in the body or syndromes, quite often the body's reaction is more than is necessary for healing. Our immune system is still ready to protect a person from the paleo era. It really is bombarded and not of our health status. So we often tremendously overreact to things. We do that when we get a cold and you have to take medicines to calm down the inflammatory response. The same is true in osteoarthritis. What happens quite often is a little piece of cartilage can flake off, and then it's floating around the joint, and the body begins to see that as a foreign substance. So UC2, as you mentioned, is undenatured cartilage type 2 that's been through a very specific cold process to keep it undenatured. So the body recognizes that, and by giving a low dose day after day, the body sees that as normal. So now when this little flake of cartilage comes off, the body doesn't set up a big immune response. It just says that's a normal event going, which allows the body's normal healing of that joint to occur without the interference from the hyperinflammation going on and destroying the healing process.
So that's the UC2 component,
That's the UC2.
Right? Now you have other ingredients in there,
There
I'm
is
sure,
another
as well, right?
ingredient I want to touch on. When I was back in equine practice, when we had muscle and joint injuries, I'd often use, people might remember DMSO, dimethyl sulfoxide. It was a liquid. We'd give it sometimes intravenously, orally. It had a couple drawbacks. You had to give a large volume, and it had a terrible smell to it. You'd smell sulfur and garlic to it, so it'd stink up the whole barn.
Sounds attractive.
MSM, yeah, it was one of those mythical things we used in veterinary medicine, you know, to make us seem more professional.
Probably didn't have vampires anywhere around.
Right.
All
No,
right.
it kept them all away. But the MSM is a derivative of that that's in a powdered crystalline form that can be taken orally. And so you don't get any of the side effects, yet you get the anti-inflammatory benefit of the MSM. And that's important because in the case of arthritis, it takes some weeks for the UC2 to really have its beneficial effect to the point where you see the relief of the soreness. The MSM has a more immediate effect and can kind of get the horse, or it's also used in small animals, can get the animals through that, bridge that part until the UC2 has the full chance to have its impact.
I'm going to jump back to Elizabeth.
Yeah.
A little bit ago, you referred to Flexidin, and you obviously use it. Why do you use that particular product? In what cases?
Well, I was first introduced to it. I have a 10-year-old lesson horse, and he got kicked in the hind leg, and he was having some hock issues, and he was sore.
Okay.
So I was introduced to the Flexidin. I put him on it, and it made him so much more comfortable. And just throughout his whole body, it seemed like it helped with the hocks and everything else. So I thought, well, if this is going to help him so much, I'm going to put it on my competition horses and keep them performing at their highest level for as long as possible and keep them as comfortable. And I have them all on it, and they're performing amazing.
So what kind of difference do you notice in the other ones then?
they just feel comfortable. They feel more comfortable with the turns, and because we have different patterns, so you have to. It's not just, you're going to run up and make one turn. You have to, sometimes you start on the right lead and you've got to swap to the left and then go back to the right and then back to the left.
Yeah.
And the horses just seem a lot more comfortable. And when they're comfortable, they're happy.
And that makes you more comfortable.
And that makes me more comfortable too.
Make a run out there.
Yeah, and happy.
Well, how about you,
yes.
Tiffany? What's your experience?
The same when it was first introduced to me was like kind of as a preventative as well. Use this, prevent these horses that are harmful to themselves by what they give us and what they do for us. And I did start using it, and I had a gelding that I had to inject pretty regularly, and I seemed to notice that I didn't have to inject him as often, and I noticed he was moving freer when I rode him. We've put several other horses on it that I've ridden for people. They're like, man, this doesn't feel right, or my horse isn't working, and you get on them and you feel something. And a lot, you get from feel, and you start these horses on these products, and the only thing you've changed is adding the Flexit into it, and then the research behind it, you can tell that it's working.
So it was very noticeable.
Yes, and it's not like in 3 days, it's a matter of a daily, it's a daily struggle.
Sure.
And but when you see the results, I'd say 3 to 4 weeks, you can kind of start feeling the movement. And one of the reasons I really think that it helps is maybe not so much the joint area, but I think it makes these horses more comfortable in other places, shoulders, hips, different things. And then therefore, they seem more comfortable for in the areas that we've been injecting, when really it's an overall feel that you're getting to where the animal's moving better all over.
Yeah, I might add to that, Tiffany, that the collagen, this is undenatured collagen type 2, collagen occurs in a lot of places. We focus on it in the joint, but it's in every tendon, every ligament, and the same activity happens, and that's why both of you have mentioned it's not just in an injured hock or anything. You feel shoulders moving more fluidly and things, and that's why, because that collagen occurs a lot of places. A pulled tendon has a lot of collagen issues and hyperinflammation going on, so it's not surprising that you see that benefit.
So we're talking about the use in horses.
Right.
Can Flexit and with the UC2 be used in small animals too?
Absolutely. In fact, it's used extensively in dogs. They're through breeding programs and other things, and just the way they're used, or sometimes because they're not used enough. Dogs are more prone to hip dysplasia and other joint and old age remedies. In my house of 3 big dogs and 1 smaller one, the bigger dogs are all on it all the time because, as both have said, it's getting ahead of the osteoarthritis is better than getting behind and trying to catch up. So any of the big breeds now are prone to osteoarthritic problems, hip dysplasia and others, and it really is a benefit for them.
I used to have a Great Pyrenees, and that was one hit on them. They said they were real prone to that. So if I would have known about that at the time,
did you have that with yours? Did you experience it?
I never had it long enough. I found a new home for it when I moved to Nashville, so I found a farm family that could
Somebody
use it.
else got to deal with that.
That's good to know, though, because if I
let
still have it, I
let
would
me
use
show
it.
you this.
Okay.
So there's the product that's used on dogs and cats. It's a very palatable triangular product that's very chewable. I can. I'm not trying to say that recommend it for human use, but it's dogs love it. I've had a lot of packages torn up because they like it so well.
Really?
And then on the horse side, sorry about that little slip there. On the horse side, we do it in a granular form. Same active ingredient in a granular form, so it can just be poured on the feed. Very palatable. Again, this is kind of a neat thing. We did some work on palatability. Everybody thinks it's peppermint and apples, but the flavoring we used, based on quite a bit of work, was banana. And horses tend to love it. I think your experience has been that's really good.
Yeah.
It smells a little bit like a good banana shake.
That's fascinating. All right. So you mentioned earlier about the fact that horses, a lot of horses can be prone to cartilage issues, joint issues.
Right.
So for our viewers at home, what do they watch for symptoms of that problem?
Yeah, it kind of depends on how serious a horse person they are, because Tiffany and Elizabeth will just pick up that the horse isn't moving quite as well. They both talked about changing leads, and sometimes a horse just won't change leads quite as well. A classic sign at a trot is that a horse starts bobbing its head when it's on a sore leg. So there are quite a few of these things. Sometimes a farrier will just tell you that as they're holding up the foot, the horse isn't as comfortable. Maybe you ought to have the stifles or hocks checked out or something. There are a lot of things. Veterinarians will go further and they'll start with flexing joints for a period of time and then letting the horse go and seeing if it moves sore, on to then doing nerve blocks and things to try to determine exactly where the problem is.
Well, I'm glad you pointed that out. I appreciate that a lot. Lots of good stories already from everybody here. So we'll delve a little more into this in just a little bit. Right now, we're going to take a quick little break. And what we want to do is open up our phone lines. We have a toll-free phone number in order tonight. Here it is. Jot it down and give us a call. 877-731-6733. Again, 877-731-6733. Call in with your questions about the health of your performance horse. And tonight's experts are ready to answer your questions when we come back. That's all coming up on Rural America Live. Welcome back to Rural America Live with the experts from Vetoquinol. Well, as we focus on equine athletes tonight and their health, we're glad to be visiting with you, and we want to hear from you. You have a question about your performance horse when it comes to their health, joint pain, or overall health. Now is your chance to give us a call. You can call us toll-free, and here is that number. We're taking your calls right now. 877-731-6733. Again, 877-731-6733 is the number. And a reminder, Vetoquinol is offering a very special discount on their products tonight. Just go to farmvet.com and use this code, Summer Savings, and you will get 10% off. And if you buy one Flexidin product, you'll get another one free using that code tonight, Summer Savings. Just go to farmvet.com. Well, we've talked about Flexidin UC2 in the EQUISTRO line. Elizabeth, let's talk about another one. MyoPower. You've been using MyoPower. How do you use it and why do you use it?
I started using it on the younger horses, especially that come in for training, and it has really helped build more muscle, and it helps them a lot with their top line, and it helps keep them stronger. If we get a horse that comes in that's kind of poor looking, I don't want to pour too much feed to him and worry about founder, but I want him to look good and feel good. So we started using the MyoPower, and the change has been amazing. They develop muscle a lot stronger, they last longer, they feel better, they perform better.
You start them at what age again?
We get a lot of 2-year-olds that we start,
Okay.
But I put my horses on it in the spring when we're really getting them fit for the competition season. Leave it on them. It helps with trailering and keeping their muscles, and it keeps them looking and feeling at their highest level throughout the whole season.
So that's interesting. You leave them on that for, what, a few weeks, I guess, right?
You can do a few weeks, or you can do it daily.
Okay. All right. Well, very good. I believe we have a caller on the line, and if you want, we can go ahead and take that phone call. We have Nina on the line calling in from California. Nina, thanks for calling in. I appreciate that. And again, if you want to call in too, the number 877-731-6733. You're welcome to call too. Nina, what's your question?
Well, actually, my question is regarding canine application. I train and trial agility dog.
Oh, yeah.
And I was wondering, is the dosage for the Flexidin specific for weight or age or AM, PM dosage? And where do I find it?
I should have addressed that. Thanks a lot for asking that, Nina. And because it's not, in some ways, because it interacts with the immune system, it's not a weight-dosed product. So the product I was showing earlier, this same product, it's one dose regardless of dog size. It just needs to be given once a day. Because of the interaction, it's not a vaccine, but you can think of it that way in the way it interacts with the body. So it's not that a bigger dog requires a larger piece. You can see on our package there's a cat on it. So in my house, it goes to dogs and cats, very palatable for both, and it is not a size-based dose.
All right, well, thank you, Dina, for calling in. And again, we welcome all your calls. You can call us toll-free, 877-731-6733, and ask a question of our panel from Vetoquinol tonight. Eric, I wanted to visit with you just a little bit. We were talking about the product, the MyoPower, a little bit ago. Why is that so important to focus on the horse's muscles?
A lot of our viewers are already going to know this concept because it's not different from people in their own fitness programs. Almost any serious athlete is going to have some use of branched chain amino acids. They're often abbreviated BCAA or BC2A. And no matter how much protein's in the diet, even in a diet with very adequate protein, there are these three essential branched chain amino acids, leucine, isoleucine, and valine, which are usually in short supply, and they're really important in rebuilding muscle. Now, the process of development of building muscle or rebuilding, it's as anybody's working with a horse, as Elizabeth was talking about, you're tearing down the muscle and then rebuilding it, and it rebuilds stronger than it was before. But it needs the building blocks to do that. And the key building blocks there are the branched chain amino acids. So you have to make sure there's plenty available. Now, the other key is you need them there when the damage is occurring. And I don't mean damage in a pathological way. I mean the normal physiological breakdown and rebuild that occurs with normal exercise as you're building a horse or ourselves. You need something that's very fast acting that can be there then, but then during the recovery phase over the next 24 or 48 hours, you also need a more slower absorbing branched chain version of the branched chain amino acids to be there to always have that supply and make sure that the recovery is not hindered by a lack of those branched chain amino acids. So the product MyoPower has both, and that's why it has a plant-based, a pea form that's there and very quickly absorbed, very fast acting. Then it has a calcium caseinate form that's more slowly absorbed and is there for the coming day, 2 days during the recovery period. Most of us with horses in training have them on it all the time, so we're sure that those branched chain amino acids are always there. So that's why horses that are either trailered hard or worked hard, when others may fall off in the spine, over the shoulders, the muscle tends to fall away. Horses typically that are maintained and have adequate branched chain amino acids will keep and develop that musculature, and that's why people often comment that they see a better build and the horse seems to feel better and move better. That's
a good point. And that means I want to turn to you, Tiffani. Right before the show, I overheard you talking about your experience with that on the rodeo circuit. Explain why that was important there.
You know, as we run these horses, we put them in the trailer, we drive them 5 or 6 hours, we run them again, and it's under less than perfect conditions. You know, I think by keeping them on that, it builds the top line, it builds helps with the muscle tissue, and as we exercise these horses, they recover without looking like they have any type of muscle fatigue or anything like that. They stay where it keeps them from getting body sore. It's awesome. I mean, because you can tell, and it builds the top line. It keeps the weight on the horses as you travel. And as you put the miles on them, a lot of horses tend to lose a little bit of weight while they stay on the road. Mm-hmm. And, you know, our horses gain weight on the road. We're gone for 3 weeks, a month, and they stay, and when they get home, they look better than they did.
Is that right? Mm-hmm. You use them on any age?
Pretty much. I've got a horse that's at the house that's 22 now, and he's been retired, and we've just started him on the MyoPower because he's starting to look like he hasn't had the exercise over the years, mm-hmm. and the top line is falling. We've started him on it about 2-3 weeks ago, mm-hmm. and we're starting to see a difference, and he's, like I said, 22 years old, gets lack of exercise, nothing, but he needs it more. He's what he's not getting, you know, I believe all these supplements are helping.
All right. I want to go right back to you. You had also mentioned earlier before the show that you use a product called Secreta Pro.
I love it.
Secreta Pro.
Awesome.
And explain what that is. Why do you use that?
Well, when it was introduced to me, the first thing they said was smell it.
Yeah.
And I did. And I was like, wow, I can breathe. So
Okay.
it reduces the mucus. It's for respiratory. It's for airways. I can't say enough about a product that has, in three days, you can tell the difference. So we had, short story of a horse, my son's roping horse had allergies every year. The matted eyes, the coughing when you'd get on him, the dust, the allergens. When we live in South Texas, there's a lot of molds. There's any type of variable that you want to throw into them, whether it be dust, mold, mud, just funk.
Sure.
And this horse was on allergy shots. Everything. We started him on it when I first found out. The horse has not had an allergy shot. He has not coughed. His eyes haven't matted up. He's been in 4 different states in the last month. It's been amazing. I had a 3-year-old that you'd get on him, and like the first 3 circles around the arena, he'd cough a time or two. Just, I'm sure the dust and just, he came from Oklahoma to Texas, a little different. Put him on it, no coughing, nothing.
Really?
It is absolutely amazing.
Sounds like what I need when I do the market report in the morning.
Exactly. We've had really good luck mixing it, not mixing it as a science project, but mixing it, using it with for horses that bleed. Personally, I have had excellent results with those horses. I'm sure reducing the inflammation, causing some of the irritation that's, causing them to bleed from environmental issues.
Wow, that's fascinating. Eric, let me turn to you. What's the scientific basis for how this works? Anyway, can you explain that?
Well, the first thing, I want to talk about the syndrome a little bit first.
Okay.
When horses start to react, once again, we're talking about a body overreacting, because Tiffany's not talking about an infectious problem. She didn't have influenza or a respiratory infection. It's the dust and the pollens that are causing an overreaction on the body. 2 things are usually happening. One is that the airways are constricting, and the other is you build up that thick mucus, and all of us can kind of relate to it from our own respiratory conditions, like you talked about in the market report. So what happens in what went into the formulation of Secreta Pro is some fairly ancient herbal answers to those problems. So there's ingredients like black horehound and thyme, which have a respiratory dilation effect. They help get the bronchioles, the airways back to normal. And then there's a number of ingredients that go in, colt's foot and grindelia and mullein and climbing ivy, that all have the effect of getting the viscosity of that mucus back to normal so it can flow, so that the things that are trapped in the lung can flow back out, because when it's too thick, the little hairs in the airways can't move it out, so you can't actually get it out of the body. So what we do find, what I found on my horses too, is the ones that always had to start every workout with a few coughs and things no longer need to, because all of that is freely flowing out. They're able to get the dust and the allergens out of their system before the workout starts on a continuous basis.
Black horehound is
yes, doesn't that sound great?
Why does that sound familiar?
Well, when I was a kid, when we used throat lozenges, horehound candies were one of the big throat lozenges, and it had an herbal form of the same product in it.
Well, that's interesting.
Isn't that
Do you have a sample here?
Yeah, let's get this out. Let me show this.
See what you got.
This is actually the Secreta Pro.
All right.
You can see that's all we're putting in for, if we can close in on that, that's all we're giving a horse in a day. So it's a very small dosage. As has been said before, it has the great smell of rosemary to it, so it's fun to give. And the horses love it. I didn't know that horses would go for rosemary so much. Maybe my wife knew that. Maybe they'd torn up hers a few times when they were out in the yard. But it's a very well accepted product. They tend to just love it. A very low dose on a daily basis, and it just makes it easy to use. It's I don't think we have any refusal issues at all with that.
Once a day?
Once a day, yeah. We usually incorporate it into the feedings. Generally once a day is enough, but sometimes it's easier just in the normal routine of feeding to put dose in morning and evening. What do you do with that? How do you use it? Do you use it once or in multiple feedings?
Well, I use it once every day. And I mean, it's such a small dose, it's very cost effective to use it, to give it to extra horses. The horses that I'm competing on, the days that I compete, the day before, I just morning and evening.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
You know, it's such a small dose. Like I said, it's there's no problem with them eating it. So it's not one of those things you dread feeding them because you think, oh, they're not going to clean their grain up before you run them, etc. But I always make sure they get a dose before I compete.
So on the competition days, you may up it to 2 doses in the day, the morning and evening?
Correct.
Well, you're in the dusty arenas too, so that makes a lot of sense.
All right, we have another phone call, and I want to go to the phone and welcome Larry from North Dakota calling in. Larry, thanks for calling into the team and the panel here. What's your question tonight?
Yeah, I've got a horse that gets kind of heavy, like I think he's got dust allergies too. But in the summer months when I got him on grass, he doesn't seem to cough or anything like that. So I'm just wondering where to get this stuff and how much should I give him? Give him every day? Give him a little bit or not?
Well, I'll go with where to get it, and we'll talk a little. I'll share with the others who have the personal experience with it too on the use frequency. You can check with your veterinarian as a good source to find it and to get advice on the correct use of it. The reference we made earlier to the farmvet.com, you'll find it there, and tonight you'll find it with a discount, so that might be a great place to start to be able to get it at a discounted rate to give it a try. Back to Elizabeth, how do you use some Secreta Pro? How do you use it?
I actually have not started.
You haven't used Secreta
horses
Pro
on it yet.
So, Tiffany, you said you're using it once a day, all the time, and twice a day at competition?
I am, and I might, on a horse that really had some issues, and I believe on the gray horse that I knew had allergy issues, I think I maybe for the first 2 weeks, I may have given him a loading dose, given him the two cups, and then one from there on, and we just give it to him once a day, no matter what.
Yeah.
We don't ever load him up on any extra. He gets it once a day.
Yeah.
All right, sounds like your sales team has reported some good success with that product as well.
Yeah, that's Secreta Pro is a product that once we get people aware of it, we don't have any trouble with traction, getting it in, getting it to stay in. It's not a product that people try and then they're tired of and don't want to use anymore. It's just getting people aware of it with Secreta Pro.
And it's fairly new in the U.S., right?
Pretty new, yeah. We've just launched Secreta Pro recently, so we're just trying with programs like this one to get the word out so people and horses begin to get that benefit.
All right, well, what we're going to do is we're going to take another quick little break. But again, we want to invite you to call in, and there's a toll-free phone number here that you can reach to talk to our panel, and we welcome your calls too. 877 is the number, 731-6733. Again, 877-731-6733. Also go to farmvet.com and use that very special code tonight. Summer Savings is the code for a very special deal on some Vetoquinol products. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to Rural America Live. I'm Marlon Bowling with the experts from Vetoquinol. Well, of course, you're a very important part of this show, and we love talking with our viewers. There is a toll-free phone number that you can call tonight, and it is 877-731-6733, and you can talk to our panel about any equine-related questions. And we're going to change gears now and talk with Eric about some horse behavior.
Yeah.
You have some products that are specifically geared toward that, and that can be a big problem for anybody that's had horses around.
Yeah, I think anybody who's raised horses, been around them for any length of time can relate to your comment there, Marlon. I think that's right. A lot of us who are with them might consider it that maybe the problem's human behavior that the horse has to deal with.
Well, it could
in
be,
any
yeah.
case, many times we end up with an anxiety issue. It's really hard for horses to fully understand what we're putting them through. Like, put yourself in their position, and why do you get in a horse trailer and then get hauled down the road? Why, as a baby, does somebody suddenly take your mother away? Why did this saddle get thrown on my back? Why? And horses at different levels are going to develop a certain level of anxiety to all that.
Sure.
So we did some work. It's happened even at university level before we got involved, looking at why babies, human babies, other mammalian babies, have a calming effect from nursing. So they started the work thinking that, well, it's just the pheromones, and they tested that by having nursing without getting any milk, and that didn't have the same effect. So they tested to see whether it was kind of like having a big meal at Thanksgiving and it just makes you fall asleep. So they found a way to stretch the stomach without it being milk, and that didn't work. So they said, well, it must be the milk. And so they started working on the components of milk and narrowed it down, came down, and really had focused in on the casein component. And you'll see products that are out there that are casein, and they found out that just giving casein didn't work, and they were highly disappointed that casein didn't work, and sitting around and trying to figure out why it didn't work. And we're trying to make something that works well in a baby work well in an adult and not have to have nursing, so that we can do it in a small dose instead. What somebody was smart enough to figure out is that we digest mostly with the enzyme called pepsin in our stomachs as mature mammals, but newborns digest with trypsin. So when they went back and processed the casein with trypsin, they came up with the active ingredient in Zylkene, which is called alpha-casozepine, and finally had the breakthrough that adolescent and adult mammals could get the benefit that before was only happening with baby mammals. And we could do it in a usable dose form, and that then product became Zylkene. Again, we have Zylkene. We have Zylkene also in capsules for dogs and cats, but here today we're going to talk about Zylkene for equine. Zylkene for equine comes in a packet that's very easy. It's a powdered form that's easy to put on the feed. We have it in this box of 20, and we also, for fixed events, have the smaller box of 6, because sometimes people aren't doing horse activities on an ongoing basis. They just have a gymkhana event coming up at the weekend, and because they don't do it very regularly, it creates even more anxiety for the horse. So
Sure.
A 6-pack can get them through that, whereas the people who need it on a more ongoing basis are going to be more likely to use an ongoing with the 20-pack. So we try to accommodate their needs.
Does it matter what time of day?
Well, time of day doesn't matter very much, but time in relationship to the event does matter. A lot of horses are on it on an ongoing basis, but just like Tiffany was talking about dosing a little on the secretapleural when she's in the competition, Zylkene usually has its maximum effect between 1 hour after treatment up to 6 hours after treatment, in my experience. I'd like to know from both of you, what's your experience? Do you find that window is kind of a peak window, or how do you use it?
How about you, first of all, Elizabeth?
I found that if we feed it in the morning with their morning grain, it seems to work through the day.
Yeah. So you give it once a day in the morning?
I do.
That makes sense to me, because the evening dose wouldn't capture that window. So it does make sense.
Yeah.
Okay, give us an example of when you use the Zylkene product on your horses and what kind of results you get.
Probably my favorite example is we had a teenage girl that was working with a horse, and her horse was nervous. You could see it in his eye. She had lost control of stopping at the end of the run, and she ended up going through panels, and she was losing interest in it because she was getting scared and the horse was scared. So they started coming to ride with us, and through working with teaching the horse how to have breaks again, we also added the Zylkene into his diet, and you could actually see his eye change.
Really?
He went in from having this really tight eye and nervous to being able to process what we were asking him to do. And from there, they became really successful, and she started enjoying it again, and actually was able to develop a relationship with her horse that was fun. And she moved up. We have 6 levels in our sport, and when she first started riding with us, she was a 3 with no wins, and she just recently moved up to a level 6, which is the highest level on the same
right?
horse.
That's wonderful.
And you can see the difference.
How soon did it have results that you could tell?
We can definitely tell if she doesn't use it.
Wow.
It's pretty
Yeah.
remarkable.
Wow, is that right?
Yeah.
How about you, Tiffany?
It's kind of the same thing. It's one of those, the horses that you know, you can give it, and I have a barrel horse that won't eat anything in its feed. So I make a paste with it in a syringe, mix it with some water, and I orally administer it to him. And I do it between an hour and 2 hours before he runs, and I can see the difference in him. He can be less than pleasant to be around sometimes, and there's him having his little non-Zylkene episode at the trailer. And
There you go,
that's
yeah.
him in normal, and I gave him the Zylkene, and within about an hour, that was him. The only reason he's moved in the position at the trailer is so he didn't paw the stems off the tires.
Really?
But that's the difference in, that was within about an hour and a half after giving it to him. The one thing I like about it is it's not a product that you have to try over and over and over. You can use it once, and you can know pretty much, you may have to adjust the dose, but you know whether it's going to work or not.
Yeah.
And, you're not buying a $200 tube of something or anything like that. You can buy an individual packet. You can try one from a friend. You can buy the new 6-pack. You can do a lot of things, and you know whether the product is going to work, and I think that's awesome.
Eric, do you have any personal accounts?
Oh,
on your own with
I
them?
have quite a few personal accounts of my own, but I wanted to comment too on some of those. You make a great point, Tiffany, in saying knowing whether it's going to work or not, because it doesn't work in all cases.
No.
Usually you have to focus on cases that are related to anxiety. So a mean horse isn't an anxious horse necessarily. And I think from your comments you can both relate to this. When I'm talking to people about it, I emphasize that there's no sedative effect. So that girl and her pony that you talked about, some people use something like acepromazine to try to get through that, which can be quite a dangerous thing and doesn't solve the problem because horses don't learn on sedatives. They can learn on Zylkene so that horses, or when we're using Zylkene for dogs with noise phobias, for example, we've been able to lower the dose over time so that as they get accustomed to what was frightening them, what was creating the anxiety, as they get accustomed to that, they can decrease and maybe even get off of the Zylkene. I just tell people it gives you your horse back. When it works well, you just get back the horse that you used to know, and that seems to apply to the pony you talked about.
I'd like to add something.
Sure.
In the Zylkene, one of the great advantages in a performance horse that you have to have the speed is you can give the Zylkene, it's more of a focused, relaxed, level, flat performance. There's no speed taken away. It's just like an athlete. They train and try to relax the muscles so they can perform faster by being relaxed. And I truly believe the Zylkene takes no speed away from the horses. One of the newest experiments that we've kind of done with it, we had a horse that really had some anxiety issues. So he was also a very bad bleeder.
Okay.
And we decided to try, we had tried everything. We had tried mixing several medications with the Lasix, trying to get him to keep from bleeding. That it wouldn't work. He continued to bleed. Not only did we assume he was bleeding out. So we were kind of at our end of our rope on that. Well, we decided to try the Zylkene in addition to the Lasix. We've done it about 6 times and the horse has not bled yet.
Now, that's interesting.
And I'm not saying that works for everybody, but in this particular case, and we put him on the Secretipro right away. But the combination, if that helps anybody with a horse for several runs, one run, it does seem to work. And it did on this horse, and it's, you know, like I said, it's one of those things that you have to try it to see it, but the products, for the anxiety, there's a lot of horses that their blood pressure goes up, they want to bleed, it all works together.
Yeah.
At this point, Elizabeth, earlier in the program, I alluded to a point of what you do, and you call it mounted shooting, right?
Cowboy mounted shooting.
Mounted shooting.
Yes.
And we had pictures, maybe we can bring that back up, of you on a horse, and you're shooting from, there it is, right there, right between the horse's ears.
Yeah.
Now, from the horses that I was familiar with growing up, I mean, that would spook that horse like you wouldn't believe. Now,
Well,
I would assume maybe Zylkene would help with this. How in the world does that apply here and keep them settled down?
They do say you can shoot off of any horse once. It's a reload,
I
that's the
believe
problem.
it too.
But you know, if you can take away anxiety and they can learn to do their job without being scared, then they're going to perform better and they're going to last longer. So we do a lot of slow work in our training program. We teach the horses how to be okay with it, so that they don't have as much anxiety. And the horses that really do, we put them on the Zylkene to help reduce it before it becomes an issue.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you started on that before you even attempt that.
Yeah.
And you've had great success with that,
great
obviously.
success, yes.
All right. Obviously, we were talking earlier in the broadcast, Tiffany, about I believe that's available in a 6-pack that you can take traveling. Has that worked out all right for you on the rodeo circuit then?
I haven't actually had the 6-pack. I've had the big box.
Oh, you go all out.
I buy the big box.
Right.
I'm going to go ahead and buy the 20 doses. But I think it's awesome. And I like the fact that it's, you know, 1 packet at a time, easy to use, it's convenient, stores easy. It's, you know, it's not a, some of the times with some of the pace and different things, the consistency changes as the weather changes. You don't have that issue with the Zylkene because of the packets. Like I said, the palatability, there's different ways to feed it. I think it's awesome. The dogs, I've had dogs that run off in a thunderstorm. I give them their Zylkene, they stay home. I have 2 Pyrenees. They are
Nice,
living proof,
nice.
and if they keep running off, they're going to need lots of that Flexidil.
All right, so you're backing up my point there. Well, Eric, I'll turn to you. You were talking about you can use this on small animals. We don't have too much time left here, but can you elaborate on that for a minute?
Right. Well, yeah, and Tiffany's point, that's one of the most common areas, but think of the things that create anxiety again. It's an anti-anxiety product. So fireworks cause that. Fireworks, guns going off cause that for a lot of animals. Another thing is separation anxiety. Animals that will tear up a house because their owner's gone all day.
Sure.
And it's, as has been pointed out, it's not going to work on every animal, but the animals that respond to it just have a much better quality of life because of the calming effect. I have a rescue German Shepherd who was, we couldn't walk through a door because she'd been abandoned and thought every movement was going to be abandonment. So Zylkene was part of her diet for a few months and then gradually weaned off except at fireworks time. So it's a lot of the same uses you'd see in horses you'll find in the small animals as well.
All right, well, thanks for pointing that out, and we are kind of running out of time, but I did want to point out that we have this special offer going on tonight, and is this good through tomorrow? Did I understand that correctly? All right, so once again, make sure you go to this website. It's called farmvet.com, and when you go there, make sure that you also enter that special code. It's called Summer Savings. Enter summer Savings on there when you search for these products, and you'll get 10% off and buy one, get one free on the EQUISTRO line, right?
On the Flexidin.
On the Flexidin line.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Very good. So anyway, check it out and make sure you check out that website. Boy, it's been great. I wish we had more time, but thanks for coming in.
I've enjoyed every time we get to talk. It's people I like to be with, products I like to talk about, and RFD-TV. It doesn't get any better than this.
We appreciate it. And Elizabeth and Tiffany,
you.
thank you. Good to meet you, and come back anytime.
It was great meeting my geographical
Yes,
cousin.
exactly. We'll talk about that in a future show. All right, but anyway, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate that very much. Hope you have a good night, and appreciate you joining us here on Rural America's most important network.